As a business leader, do you ever feel that every day you're answering the same questions? Maybe you're fixing the same mistakes, whether they're mistakes that happen with our customers or things that our team has done. Do you ever wonder why you feel like everything depends on you? Well, I've definitely had that feeling. And I want to share with you how to document your processes in a way that's so simple and then use the system we teach to get them followed by everyone else in the organization. My vision for you is that your business will run like a well-oiled machine, but specifically so that you don't feel like you're micromanaging every single step. I don't know if process is specifically the issue, documented processes. I feel the greater issue is how do we get our people to follow it? And I would love teaching teams the tools on how to fix that. So perhaps you're the type of company where just the processes live in your head. Maybe all the leaders have them in their head, but you know they're not written down. Maybe you know there's not a succession plan in place, and your business is not scalable unless we get them captured. You'll just stay flatlined or stuck. Or maybe your business is at the other end of the spectrum and you've actually gotten your processes documented, but no one follows them. I've lived in both of those worlds in my own entrepreneurial journey. And the pain is that you have worked very hard to build your business, to invest and reinvest in it. Maybe you have even created some kind of systems, but you feel that things still fall through the tracks and that accountability just feels like it's this myth out there that you really can never realize or experience. I promise you there is a better way. I've worked on this simple and proven approach that finally gets your teams aligned without micromanaging, without adding additional complexity, and without taking your eye off the ball of growing your business. I am Lisa Gonzalez. I am an entrepreneur. I am a speaker, and I am co author of the book Process: How Discipline and Consistency Will Set You and Your Business Free. So, growing up, I watched my own entrepreneurial parents struggle with inconsistent systems in their businesses. They had 10 different businesses and four kids, and a lot of struggle with that. Also, just created sometimes a lot of just tension in not only their marriage, but in our family, because sometimes financially we didn't know where our next dollar was going to come from, and sometimes it was, payoff and everyone had sufficient money. But I learned so much in watching how they built their business. And my parents did a great job. They raised us four kids really well. But it did come with a lot of pain. Later, I faced the same pain. I married an entrepreneur and we successfully opened a remodel company in Colorado. And then we decided to expand to multiple cities in the United States. We hired talented people and we trained some of them, but others we didn't. We figured maybe through osmosis, people would understand our processes. And we lost a ton of money along the way. We lost money where we had to take money out of our own home. We took money out of our retirement accounts. We took money out of the business to rebuild and fix so many of the mistakes that we made because we didn't have processes and structures in place to help our other markets be successful. So everything that I have learned and understood, I shared it and I've shared it with our leadership teams. And today I get to share it with other people because I learned that success is not just documenting your processes, but it's really getting them followed by all. And I learned this the really hard way. First of all, I decided to single-handedly document every process we had in our company, the ones I understood. I didn't check in with the leadership team, talk about really bad leadership on my part. And I ended up documenting them, presenting them in this giant three-ring binder to my to the leadership team. And it turned out that I presented it to them, and it was so voluminous and detailed that no one really cared about it. I also didn't get their buy-in, and we didn't use it very quickly. It ended up on a bookshelf behind my desk. And I even forgot about it because it just was too much. It got outdated really quickly. And this is really a lesson I learned as I continued on this journey of trying to get my processes documented and trying to scale our own business, is that success in an organization is not just about getting your processes documented. It's really about process adoption. That is the name of the game. You could have the best documentation in your processes, but how do you get them followed by all? So the big shift happened when I realized, that traditional methods fail. I made them too complicated. There was hundreds of pages of SOPs and descriptions of how to do certain things in the business. We had no clear ownership on who was accountable for keeping the processes, to getting them trained, to getting them, keeping them updated. And we really had no system for accountability or optimization to make sure our processes would help us streamline our company and make sure that we wouldn't become obsolete or get behind our competitors. fortunate enough to get a copy of the book Traction by Gino Wickman. I ended up going straight to the process component and learning the tools to really successfully document your processes. This time I got our leadership team aligned on the work. We started documenting our processes as we opened up in multiple cities of the United States. The work was so impactful, we became one of the largest residential remodelers in the country. And I was able to successfully exit the company. I became an EOS implementer and a process success coach. And along the way was fortunate to co-author the latest book or one of the books in the EOS Traction library called Process: How Discipline and Consistency Will Set You and Your Business Free. And that has just helped me continue on a different journey, which is I get to speak. I've spoken to thousands of people across the world, which is so amazing. I've taught process success workshops and cohorts around virtually and in person. And I get to teach other EOS implementers on how to get these tools into the hands of their clients. And so I'm really excited to teach you the very tools that my teams learn and that we learned in order to just run a better business and live a better life. There's 3 tips, and I hope you can take these tips today and find them valuable in your own business. First of all, we have to really work on the mindset of our teams. We have to get buy-in from our teams if we're going to get process work done. I've seen teams jump into the documentation and other work, but if we don't get alignment with the leadership team and the rest of the organization on process, of everyone understanding what are the benefits our business will experience when it comes to process, what are the costs we are experiencing from lack of process, and not only qualitatively, but quantitatively, what is it costing us to either lose customers, maybe high turnover, maybe the mistakes that we're making? There's a dollar amount for these things that we don't necessarily see directly on our P&L that we can definitely attribute to lack of process. So that's the first work we do, is really get our mindset right. The next thing we do is really dive into how do we document our processes in a way that's clear and short and scalable. So I teach you the 3-step process documentation method. We first start with identifying our core processes. So we get our leadership team in a room together, and we identify the 5 to 10 core processes of our organization. Usually it's a little less than 10, but 5 to 10 is a good place to start. And then those processes we've identified, we use them as a table of contents for the work we're going to do in the future. We identify the deadlines that are going to get documented, the deadlines we're going to roll them out. And so identify piece, the first step of the 3-step process documentation method. There's a lot of pieces to it, and it really sets you up for success in getting this work integrated into your organization. Then we move to step 2, and that's documenting and simplifying our processes. We document them using the 20-80 approach, documenting 20% of the major steps that will get you 80% of the way there. So we're not going to have 100-page SOPs any longer. It's going to be very high-level checklists with the assumption that you're going to do training and people are going to refer back to the checklist and the outlines you have for your processes. And there's more work to do there, but we keep it very high level, 1 to 2 pages of process. Then the third step of the 3-step process documenter is that we package them. And we package them with 2 things in mind. We package them so they're easy to find and they're easy to use. And we go through the work there to make sure we're really creating a system that other people can use. And that is phenomenal to document your processes and make sure they're simplified and usable. Then we move on to making sure they get followed by all. And this is really where the heavy lifting happens. And so we ensure the 4 steps of getting them followed by all is we use the followed by all checklist. So what do our rhythms look like for training? And we make sure we have trainings in place for all of our core processes and eventually our sub processes and our procedures. Then we talk about what do we do to measure these processes? How do we tie our processes to a good scorecard? We teach how to measure for either compliance or frequency or results. And the course I teach dives into each of those to make sure you're measuring the right stuff. You don't have to measure all the steps, but measuring the right things to make sure your processes are staying alive. And then the third piece, also crucial, is now we have to manage people to these processes. We've set up the framework, we've started training, and we're measuring them. Now we're managing, we're driving consequences if our processes aren't effective or they aren't being followed. And sometimes when I say consequences, people think, does that mean we fire people? And it's not the first step. Maybe it just means you start with training again. You get clarity and you confirm that people are understanding. Maybe we dive in a little bit deeper. And maybe eventually it means having someone exit your company, but we're going to do the work we can to make sure we have given people the tools to be successful. And the last piece of the follow by all checklist is we make sure that they get updated. We have really great rhythms in place and owners in place to just update them at least once a year to make sure that we're analyzing and making sure that our processes are streamlined, effective, and that we as an organization don't become obsolete. I'm going to share with you the story of an organization that really spent a lot of energy and effort in getting their processes documented, and then they stopped using it. So I worked with a team that had invested in a third party documenting one process, and it cost the company $250,000, $250,000. They ended up with, I think it was a 78-page, beautiful document that documented this one process, but it's super complex. And even with the best of intentions, they could not implement it. And it ended up much like my processes, gathering dust somewhere else in the organization. Years later, I met them, they took my course and found a way to document the process, found a way to simplify the process that was documented by that organization so that people can use it. And this dusty PDF turned into this living and adopted and effective system. The team took the existing process and made it a high level approach that people could use and they could dive into the details later. I've worked with scores of companies that have done the same thing. I'm sharing with you now our process success course, which has been used by so many companies, and it's for entrepreneurs, EOS implementers, other leadership teams who just are hungry for simplicity and accountability. So inside of the course, we start with the mindset training that I talked about and really make sure that you, as the trainer of the people in your organization, have the tools to train your teams on how to get everyone to have alignment on your mindset and really break through some of the myths that there are around process documentation and process compliance. And then I teach the 3-step process documenter framework and teach you the tools to identify your processes, document and simplify them, and then get them packaged. And I give examples and downloads. And then we move into followed by all checklists. And we really talk about real world implementation tools to train, measure, manage, and keep your processes updated. The super awesome thing I get to do in this course, which I love because I do workshops, I do workshops and I work with teams, but I also give you access to our LinkedIn mastermind where you can meet other people that are trying to get their leadership team to adopt process. Maybe you've run into some hiccups. It's a really great way to ask questions, share ideas, and just keep growing this community of, I call you process champions, so we can not get stuck and just keep blowing past the issues we have when it comes to process adoption. I have a quarterly live Q&A where I jump on with you and just answer any questions you have, maybe do a little bit of training. And then I also just have downloads for process, whether it's using AI, documents to show you how simple a process can look, a core process specifically, as well as different ways you can package your processes. Sometimes teams are concerned, what if I don't have time? I'm already drowning. And we really created this program so that the lessons are actionable. They're very short. I make them bite-sized pieces. I also teach you how to calendar block so you can watch this program and watch the course and actually implement it. I really encourage you to bring someone else in your organization on board to do it so that you have an accountability partner. It has proven incredibly effective for my teams to get through this work and start applying it immediately to their teams week over week, quarter over quarter. Sometimes teams ask, well, we've tried process work before. Maybe you've even hired a third party to document your processes. This really is very unique. This is built for adoption, not just documentation. I certainly teach you how to document your processes in a very practical, simple way using the 2080 approach. But this is built for adoption, and you can really dive in either department by department. I really encourage our teams to do this in a way that's digestible. So I'm not encouraging you to take all your processes at one time and do it, but we're going to encourage you to take 2 to 3 processes a quarter and start this work. And eventually you're going to get this momentum and see that you become a organization that's committed to continuous improvement. If you're concerned that your team's not going to follow through, maybe you're concerned that your visionary doesn't care about this and won't care about this. This is exactly who this program is for. I know there's a lot of teams out there, particularly HR teams and accounting teams that love this work. And there's salespeople and designers and visionaries who will run from this work. And so I teach you how to overcome objections and really paint the picture for what transforming your organization looks like when it comes to getting your processes followed by all. I invite you to click and enroll now. Our enrollment comes with a 30-day money back guarantee, so there's no risk to you if you don't find any value. Let's make your business run smoother. Let's make it run faster without you being in the middle of every decision. The doors are only open for a short period of time typically, and after that, some of the bonuses disappear. But it never feels like there's a good time for process work. But it's always important if we just start making these baby steps and chip away at it, all of a sudden you'll realize you have a whole organization that has been hungering for the tools and the skills to run your business better. And it's on us as leaders to give them those tools. So you've done the hard work in your business, you're a running business. Now let's make your processes work for you. You know what works. Let's get them documented and simplified and followed by all so you can get the freedom you deserve as a leader to go on and continue to create great things.